Dear Machiavellians, welcome to the very first Machia Talk. This is a series of TED Talk-like videos that we will try to make both informative and entertaining, with some themes more serious than others. So my Machia Talk shall address a few topics that were discussed during an inclusive leadership training that Ghana, our secretary, and I followed last summer, given by Our Bodies, Our Voices. And the idea of these Machia Talks actually arose at the beginning of the year when we were setting up our Machia Safe Space policy. And we hope that together with the implementation of our trust persons, these videos will help us opening up the conversation about inclusivity and social safety. But we also want this to be a way to get to know more about our Machiavelli board members and their functions. Therefore, it is an honor for me to be the first one giving a Machia Talk as Social Activities Coordinator. My name is Jobeleen Perez, as some of you might already know, and I would kindly like to ask you to sit back, relax, listen to this talk, and hopefully you'll get something useful out of it. Our ability to reach unity in diversity is both the beauty and the test of our civilization. This is something Gandhi once said. Now I believe it is also something that we can try and live by during things as simple as social events. I shall discuss 4 things that can help us to achieve this. Number 1 being boundaries and communication. Number 2, consent culture. Number 3, inclusion and belonging. And number 4, support and report. Let's start off with boundaries and communication. Firstly, it is important to understand that all people are different. This might sound like something very obvious, however, at times during social gatherings, we tend to forget that due to personality, cultures, past experiences, or even a sense of belonging, people have different levels of comfort in any situation. And we should always keep in mind that it might be difficult for someone to communicate their boundaries for whatever reason. They might be afraid to be excluded or bullied even. And as the social activities coordinator, I want everyone to feel safe and accepted at my events and allow people with different boundaries to participate. A small example of this would be if you imagined us being at first weekend or something, and there would be drinks involved and people started playing games. Then a game that is very likely to come up is Never Have I Ever. And the topic that tends to be used during Never Have I Ever is the topic of sex. And Dutch young people, we are very used to everyone being very comfortable talking about this topic. But for whatever reason, it might not be someone's culture, or someone doesn't feel like the topic is relatable because they don't have much experience in that regard. They might feel uncomfortable and maybe even feel pressured to go on with it and still play this game. So I think as a Machiavelli board member, it is good to always recognize these kind of uncomfortable topics for some people and then offer them something else. So either guide the conversation and also use other topics, or offer other games so people won't feel pressured and can easily join something else that they do feel comfortable with. The second point I would like to discuss is consent culture. People should be able to express their comfort or discomfort, which they can only do if others are actually actively listening. And as a regular member, what you can do is give someone space and respect to express their thoughts and try to create an open environment for everyone. Also try to remember that talking about consent is not and should not be a taboo. Do not be afraid to ask someone questions if you're not sure about how they feel about something. And if we all actively normalize talking about consent, it will become easier and easier for someone to express their comfort or boundaries, even if they usually really struggle with this. And as such, I think it should be important to always keep an eye out during events for situations like this, and to check in with people who seem uncomfortable. During the training, they also taught us about ways to do this and approach situations like this. I also believe this is not only applicable for physical events, but I think we should also create a safe space online. And this doesn't only go for Machiavelli events. I think it is good if we all try our utmost best to stay away from antisocial, aggressive or violent content on social media. That we should not be public shaming each other or engage in other forms of harassment. During the OBOF training, they also showed us this pyramid. And as you can see, it originates from small comments or attitudes that might be seen as jokes at first. But if we keep on tolerating and supporting that kind of behavior at the bottom of the pyramid, it will be easier to excuse behavior at the top of the pyramid. You can see the different forms of harassment as some sort of building blocks. And if we as a society, community or study association even already tackle and break down those building blocks at the bottom of the pyramid, we prevent the pyramid being fully built. So if you find yourself in a situation that you see it happening, that someone makes jokes, for example, about someone else and that person feels uncomfortable, don't only think about yourself and if you found it funny, but as the person that it affects, what they feel and what they would need. Then you can focus on yourself again and think, what should I do in this situation and what can I do to help the person in need? Now let's move on to the third topic, inclusion and belonging. And the main point that I would like to make with this one is that people are mainly disadvantaged by barriers set by others and organizations rather than it being unavoidable. An example given to us was think about someone in a wheelchair and buildings not being accessible for them. But if they were the norm, there wouldn't be a barrier. So this also made me think about online events. The norm here is that we all have access to good internet connection and a laptop or a computer. However, especially during these times, it would be a great barrier for someone if they would not have what we all assume they have. When physical gatherings are hardly or not possible at all, I can imagine it being very difficult for someone even being excluded online. Therefore, we should be aware of the privileges we have and try to think of ways to remove the barriers for those who don't have them. Which brings us back to point 1, boundaries and communications, because if we do not open up the conversation, we might not even be aware of the barriers some people might struggle with. Lastly, point 4, support and report. We as an association would like to be aware of any issues that our members are facing, and we think it is important to deal with these issues preemptively. And we know that we are not certified psychologists or counselors, however, we can help redirect you, or small issues that we can already handle within the association. And the important thing here is once again communication. We can't help anyone if we do not know what's going on. Thus, if you go to our website and click on association in the header, you can find our web page called Trust Persons. And this contains a web of resources from the UVA, which they also have on their website, but we listed everything neatly for you. And you can find the so-called trust box. And if anyone wants to address something to our internal trust persons, they can easily fill in the form, and then Derek Rosema, the education coordinator, and I will get a notification and we will contact them. You can even fill in a preference, if you have one, for which one of us you would like to have a conversation with. Thank you very much for listening. I hope we have informed you through this video and that you actually enjoyed watching it, and I cannot wait to see you guys in real life. Until then, stay safe and I'll see you online.